If you've ever read Dogman or checked out the trailer for the upcoming movie, you know who Petey the cat is. He's one of the most iconic villains in the Dogman universe, and he's definitely no stranger to causing chaos. But there's a lot more to Petey than just being a villain. Petey's story doesn't start in the Dogman books, though. In fact, he first appeared in another comic by Dav Pilkey, the creator of Dogman. That was in Super Diaper Baby 2, The Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, released in 2011. In that story, Petey was actually the sidekick to the villain Dilbert Dinkle, and his first big crime was robbing a bank using a device called the Liquidator 2000, which turned walls into water. Petey could talk like a human, but he still walked on all fours like a regular cat. This was long before Dogman hit shelves in 2016, but it kicked off Petey's journey to becoming one of the greatest villains ever. Before becoming the evil mastermind we know, Petey had a difficult childhood. As revealed in Dogman, Lord of the Fleas, Petey's early life was full of hardship. He was abandoned by his father as a kitten and ended up in a shelter called Happy Home, where he and his mother spent years. Despite these struggles, Petey wasn't always evil. In fact, he was part of the Critter Scouts, a group for young animals where they learned survival skills, played baseball, and tried to be good. However, things took a turn when a chaotic event occurred at the camp. The young animals were left unsupervised, and when the camp monitors returned, they were furious to find a mess. Petey, despite being innocent, was blamed by a group of pups and unjustly expelled. This marked a turning point for him, leading him to join another camp group. But instead of letting the injustice slide, Petey became determined to strike back at those who had falsely accused him, setting the stage for his eventual transformation into a villain. In the first Dogman book, Petey's evil ways continue. The story starts with Officer Knight and his K-9 partner, Greg, getting kicked out of the police station by the sheriff for messing up the furniture. Meanwhile, Petey and his butler are plotting their next move. They set up a bomb in the park to take out the two officers. But here's where things get different in the movie. The comics show the bomb actually injuring the officers, while the movie places the explosion in the park. Soon enough, Petey finds out that his failed bomb plan ended up creating Dogman. Not one to give up, he tries again, this time with a giant vacuum cleaner to suck up Dogman and his partner. Of course, the plan goes wrong. The vacuum explodes, and Petey gets arrested. But if you know the series, you know that the mayor of OK City has something sinister in the works, and Petey escapes from prison. That's just the start of Petey's wild journey in Dogman. There's a lot more to come, so get ready. Moving on. In Dogman Lord of the Fleas, Petey has a powerful moment with his clone, Little Petey. Petey admits to Little Petey that he sees himself as a truly evil character, consumed by the terrible, unforgivable things he's done. He believes he's unworthy of being a father to someone as good as Little Petey, which shows how deeply Petey struggles with self-forgiveness. However, despite Petey's doubts, Little Petey forgives him, and this unconditional love begins to make Petey question his choices. For a moment, it seems as though he might leave his villainous ways behind. But as always, trouble finds Petey. Just when he is on the verge of changing, a group of feared villains reappears, threatening to take Little Petey away. Petey, who had been trying to escape his past, now realizes that he must protect his son. Although initially resistant to the idea of being a father, Petey's deep affection for Little Petey is evident, even if he pretends to be annoyed when the kitten calls him Dad. One thing that makes the Dogman comics stand out is that the stories aren't always told in order. For example, we don't learn about Petey's past until later on. In Dogman Unleashed, the second book released in 2016, Petey is locked up in prison, but someone in the town is robbing stores. A mysterious image of the thief looks a lot like Petey, so he realizes someone is impersonating him. In typical Petey fashion, he tries to escape by making a cardboard cutout of himself. But things go wrong, and the cutout is accidentally sprayed with life spray, turning it into a 2D version of himself for a short time. It's funny how Petey's plans always seem to fail. As could it be that deep down, he wants to be a villain, but something inside him won't let him? As the story reveals, Petey has always wanted affection from others, but he struggles to earn it. In a funny twist, he uses a love ray to make people like him, but it backfires. The only place where people don't follow him is prison, so he ends up locking himself back up. In Dogman 2, the mystery of the thief is finally solved, and it turns out to be another villain, a fish of all things. Also, in Dogman, A Tale of Two Kitties, 2017. Petey escapes prison using balloons, but his biggest mistake as a villain happens when he buys a cloning machine online. He doesn't read the instructions properly, though, and ends up creating a clone of himself, Little Petey. Petey plans to turn Little Petey into a villain, but his son wants nothing to do with that. Instead, he becomes a hero, Cat Kid, and teams up with Dogman. Later, Petey shows up at Little Petey's house, not to take him, but to protect him. This is the first time we see Petey truly care for his son. In Dogman, Lord of the Fleas, 2018, Petey tries to save Little Petey from another villain, Piggy, which leads to his arrest again. At this point, Petey admits he feels something for his son, and he promises to be a better cat. In Dogman, Brawl of the Wild, 2018, Petey is allowed to visit Little Petey in prison, and during these visits, he opens up about his self-doubt. While the main focus is not their relationship, it's clear that Little Petey's kindness has started to change Petey. He's no longer the villain bent on destruction. He wants to connect with his son and build a real family. By the time Dogman For Whom the Ball Rolls, 2019 comes around, Petey is still dealing with his past. But he organizes a prison revolt when he learns many dogs have been pardoned, but not him. In the end, Petey is pardoned and released. He takes Little Petey to their new home, his old lab, but Little Petey worries about leaving Dogman behind. Petey explains that he's doing all of this to protect and impress his son, stemming from his painful experiences with his own father, Grandpa Crud, one of the series' biggest villains. When Little Petey insists on finding Grandpa Crud, Petey reluctantly agrees. The two track him down, but when Petey tries to reconcile with his father, Grandpa Crud admits he never loved him. This moment reveals why Petey became a villain and sheds light on his struggles as a father. Little Petey, being the kind-hearted clone, is the embodiment of the inner child Petey had abandoned. That inner child needed healing, and Little Petey was the key. Starting from the 8th book, Petey's journey takes a turn as he embraces being a good father. He even begins forming a friendship with Dogman, while other villains, like Grandpa Crud, continue causing chaos in the city. In an attempt to protect his son, Petey takes Little Petey out of town, but the little clone insists on rescuing the other townspeople who have been captured by the villains. Petey reluctantly agrees to the mission, but he's poorly prepared. His only weapon is an old ray shooter with only 2 shots left. With limited options, Petey uses it anyway. But things quickly go wrong when Little Petey's clumsiness causes a distraction. They almost get caught, but Dogman and the robot, ADHD, show up just in time to help. Petey even dons a hero costume to join the fight, and together they defeat the villains. After this battle, Petey tries to settle into a peaceful life with Little Petey, raising him as his son. In one moment, Petey opens up about his own painful past with his father, Grandpa Crud. This leads Little Petey, in his innocence, to try and reconnect with his grandfather, hoping he might have changed. But when Grandpa Crud returns to the scene, it's clear that nothing has changed. He continues to be a terrible person, belittling Petey and Little Petey, and even stealing from them. Grandpa Crud is eventually arrested again, but not before using gas to knock out Petey and Little Petey and escaping in disguise. He switches clothes with his son, hoping to leave Petey locked up in his place. In Dogman Fetch 22, Petey faces a tough situation because of his father's actions. He nearly ends up imprisoned unfairly, but Grandpa Crud is eventually caught, and Petey is freed. Petey and Little Petey return to a peaceful life, with Petey finally embracing his role as a father. After years of destruction and anger, Petey is transformed. He's no longer the most feared villain in the world, but a changed, happy cat who is dedicated to raising his son. Petey's journey is full of twists and turns, but by the end, he's no longer defined by his past. It'll be exciting to see how this transformation is brought to life in the upcoming Dogman movie. In the meantime, enjoy more of our videos that explore the Dogman universe. So there you have it, everything you need to know about Petey the cat. From his tough childhood to his twisted rivalry with Dogman, it's clear he's not just your average villain. What do you think of Petey's journey? Drop a comment below and let me know. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content about your favorite Dogman characters. Thanks for watching.